You're muted, Amos.
Sorry about that. Hi, everybody. Hi, Melissa, Bill, Human. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. Hi, how's everything with you, Marcus? How's everything in Germany?
Yeah, you see my reaction, well, here in Germany, the situation is like this. The party of Angela Merkel is losing more and more support. They are dropping heavily here. And as you know, in fall, we have our elections. What else is going on here in Germany? The people are getting more and more crazy. And my hair is a mess. I need a haircut.
That's a handful, not your hair, but all right.
It's more than a handful what my haircut, what my hairdo concerns. Yeah.
All right. So,
Anyway,
what do we have today?
problems. Well, simple little problems, for me. More problems. I mean, what a shitty week was it again, Amos? Tell me. Remember last week we were talking about that it doesn't come into our mind that there was a non-white assassinator going around killing people, and well, a couple of days later, bam, you have it, though from what we know, the background is a little bit different, from what we are seeing in those other mass killings before. He really seems to be the solar, the single madman, the Republicans always refer to when racist mass killings were done. What do you say?
Yeah, all these things. It's a phenomena that's not going anywhere, and it seems to be like going beyond race, and I think it's obvious that something is wrong with gun laws, and people are denying that, where they want to keep guns, but the conclusion is just and there's no escape from that conclusion.
Yeah, and we are having this discussion since I'm doing this, and well, I don't know about the outrage which was in me in the first times I was confronted with those situations. But well, I don't know, you get more and more cynical about it because you don't see that anything is moving. You see the powers are too powerful, too mighty, to get anything done to solve the situation. And if you look at all the other fires which are burning in American society, well, you only can say, okay, one more mass murder, right? And it is quite, I feel it so cynical meanwhile, and we were talking so many times about so many cases and so much injustice, and nothing is changing. And well, it leaves us helpless, I think, everywhere, and it's absolutely crazy. It's a crazy world we're living in. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, so how was your week so far, Amos,
Well,
apart from all this crap?
you know, we're
I
just
heard you lost weight, and well, as I told you before in the green room, you are the only person I know who lost weight within the pandemic. How did you do that,
It's
Amos?
not
Please give us your
accidental. Oh no,
your
it's not accidental. I gained weight during the first year of the pandemic, and then I figured, this is no good, so I have to do something about it. So I've been going doing calorie counts on my fitness pal, together with exercise bike every day, and I got one, and it seems to be working. So far so good.
you lucky one. It's pretty embarrassing for me to tell, but of 1 year ago, it was the last time where I got new clothes. The last time the shops were regularly open here, and I was preparing myself for my planned journey to America to visit you guys, as you know, and today I cannot close the pants anymore. It's absolutely ridiculous what's happening with me, and well, I got to do something, and I know this. And well, anyway, let's have a look at what we have for today's show. Of course, we are talking about the absolute crazy situation in Georgia. You know, when I heard about the news, it directly came into my mind, hey, are you trying to qualify completely Georgia for the next Olympics Ironman? Well, I didn't get it, you know, but if you think about it, you know exactly what's going on. Amos will be talk about the continuing border crisis. Well, also another topic which is terrible, you know, and we don't see much change in comparison to what Trump did and maybe Obama did before. Amos will tell us more about it. We also will talk about what the banks are doing, you know, while everyone is concentrating on Corona and COVID, and what are they doing, you know, are they investing the money? And we will see shocking amounts of money which are going directly into the sources, yeah, which will definitely kill us, you know, in the middle or long term. And we also have in the end some funny shortcuts, and I hope you guys gonna like it. Well, Amos, let's start with the card, you know. And when I heard it, you know, I was thinking about what can I do, you know, to put it into a picture, you know. And then I was thinking about The Miserables, you know, the opera, the French, not the opera, the French play, the French musical, the revolutionary one. And I had this image in my mind, you know, when all those people are queuing up there, exactly what we are seeing here in the card, you know, in chains, of course, you know, the unlucky ones who got the opportunity to vote, I thought myself, you know. And then, as I said, you know, it's, well, if you survive this, well, you're fit for the Ironman in 2023. And if you look at the details, what they are doing in Georgia is it has nothing to do with voting rights anymore. It has more to do with yeah, with keeping people away from voting, you know. And if you know that at the last Georgia election, which Biden won by 12,000 votes, and if you look at what they decided to do in future elections, you can easily see what they are aiming at, and they are trying to get the masses under control, especially those masses which are not the favorite white ones. It is obviously it concerns those, you know, who are already in a not so good situation, you know, because they have to deal with racism, you know, and etc. And if you know that that they are planning to cut the polling stations even more than they did. And I don't know what the average time in the last election was in Georgia. I heard about 8 to 12 hours. The people were queuing up there. It is absolutely ridiculous. And I was thinking myself, what if this would happen in Germany? If people would really have to stand there for 8, 12 or more hours to cast their votes, you could not imagine what would be going on here. It would be absolutely a catastrophe. The people would be on the barricades no matter what. This would be unthinkable here. You know, it has nothing to do with a voting right, you know. But well, we all know that how voting is treated in general in America. You know, we talked a lot about why is it on a Tuesday, why is it on a working day, and of all this stuff, you know, which clearly prevents people to go to cast their vote, right? And you got listed some details, Amos. Tell us a little bit more about what those scoundrels, you know, to put them like this, decided to do.
Okay, well, we'll get into the details of it. So just so you understand what is involved here, it's a 96-page document. So it is an omnibus of a bill. It's like contains a lot of different things. Some of it do not have direct implications. Some of them seems to be positive, and some of them are horrific. And we'll talk about the ones that may have impact on voter eligibility and voter turnout and so forth. The bill itself was called Election Integrity Bill of 2021. You could have replaced that with 1950 or whatever, or short SB State Bill 202. ironic name because election integrity is exactly not what we're getting with it. And some of the things are this. There's an early ballot request. They shortened it to 11 weeks instead of 26 weeks that it is now. So it compresses the time that you're going to be able to get the ballots. At the same time, it is reducing the final deadline for absentee ballot cast to two Fridays before election instead of one Friday before. So you have to submit it by 2 Fridays before, um, supposedly to protect the crunch that would result if a lot of votes come in late. But that's kind of ridiculous claim.
Yeah.
Both requesting and returning the ballot will require now state ID or driver license or a copy of acceptable voter ID. So a lot of people, as you know, especially in the poorer population, do not have do not have such uh, documents, and they find it difficult to obtain. There's like they have to get days off to get to offices, get pictures done, all kinds of things. So on the whole, they expect that to reduce the number of voters in the poorer or less served population. Obviously, that has a political impact. Um, there is also verification will include exact name spelling, birth date, and address that matches with a public record, plus an oath that those records are correct. So they can potentially uh, strike you down if you spelled your name, you didn't give a middle name, you spelled your name with a Y instead of an I, which is how official documents have I mean, people can alter. Sometimes they have a foreign name, so their spelling is not that precise, and you also have situations where people just don't know their birthdays, and that's also a thing that happens, especially with lesser affluent population with troubled family backgrounds and so forth. Um, that's all instead of the signature matching. So it allows many more opportunities to strike a ballot. Uh, there we continue with the states and local governments are no longer allowed to send applications out unsolicited. So unless you are asking for an application, they cannot send it to you. And third-party groups will pay a penalty if they send a duplicate application. So if somebody is already voted in an absentee ballot election and forgot about it, or lost whatever documentation or whatever, if you send them a second application, even if you're unaware as a third party, you will pay fines, and that is to punish these individual organizations that are working on voter turnout. Absentee ballot drop boxes moved indoors, and they're accessible during work hours only. They're like requirements, security requirements, which raise the costs to the local governments and will make it more difficult to comply with. Board of Election now greatly restricted regarding the emergency rule changes. So we know that they were given because of the pandemic, they changed, they modified the rules so that people could vote. That authority is no longer so broadly in the hands of the election board. Instead, it's the governor, or not at all. So that if we find ourselves in a similar situation as the pandemic in the future or in the next elections, hopefully not, but if we do, that's going to be a source of a problem. Also, mobile polling has been prohibited by law. It's now no longer legal to have mobile polling stations, which were used to particularly to help with local areas that were not did not have enough accessibility to polls and to absentee ballot boxes, and now they cannot remedy that. Providing food and beverages, like we discussed it in the previous show, but you cannot provide food and beverage to people who are stuck on long lines within 150 feet of a polling site, or from 25 feet from an individual standing in from a voter standing in line. So think about it. You could maybe have some station like further away, but you cannot get close to these people, and you could get fined, and it's a criminal offense now to do this. So they will use that in every opportunity that they can to intimidate people who are trying to make voting easier on people who are standing in line. Out of precinct provisional ballots are now will not be counted unless you submitted after 5 p.m. on the voting day, and the voter has to sign a statement saying that they could not make it to their home precinct in time. And of course, that affects people with public transportation more than people who are driving themselves. But all of these rules they have one thing in common, and that is to lower the voting rights of individuals in large urban communities, and it's clearly political. It's been said that this has been the Jim Crow compatible laws, maybe without jelly bean counting and some minor detail. But
we got here in chat, we got Melissa H, for example. She says, when we bought our first house, the lawyers found my name on legal documents with 5 different versions of my name. Imagine the nightmare of having to deal with that to be able to vote.
Exactly.
Melissa, forget to vote. No chance with that,
Exactly.
Well,
and
the Jim Crow 2.0 is, and I found an article which is quite interesting. If you look at the second paragraph in it, in which Lauren Growargo says this bill is nothing less than an all-out attack on democracy in Georgia and gives Republicans a license to intimidate voters. Anyone in Georgia claiming to support access to the ballot must stand up and speak out against this dangerous and fundamentally anti-democratic legislation that is nothing more than a Republican power grab to take control of our elections. And well, then it really happened, and it didn't came out good, right? Amos, we had the situation yesterday, and I think we should run the clip, to give an impression of what what you can do in Georgia and what is now illegal.
Before we do, I wanted to address the Melissa's point, and that is that with the names, and it's statistically known that people in Black communities, Hispanic communities, and immigrants basically have much more of mix up with spelling of names. So clearly that's something that is going to affect these target electorates more than others.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So there it is already teased, we see, and let's roll the clip before, and then we go into details a little bit later.
The governor is signing a bill that affects all Georgians. Why is he doing it in private, and why is he trying to keep elected officials who are representing us out of the process?
Exactly. Are you serious?
No, you are not. Represent.
No. She's not under arrest.
For what? Under arrest for what? For trying to see something that our governor is doing? Our governor is signing a bill that affects all Georgians, and you're going to arrest an elected representative. Why are you arresting her? Tell us now. Why are you arresting her? Sign it. Give me a reason why you are arresting her. Give me a reason why you are arresting her. She is an elected representative. You are choosing to arrest an elected official. Cite the statute. Cite the statute that you are arresting her under.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing which came into my mind was not the fact that it is obviously now illegal to knock on doors, to participate or to witness official document signings. But what came into my mind was the clear difference, if you look at the riots, in January, after Trump had to leave the White House. I remember those photos and those footage, where policemen were guiding out white people, elderly white people in most cases, and they're very carefully and they're very polite to them, And if you see this, well, it puts also a very dramatic racist note into all this, Amos. What do you think?
And this is not true, not new. Of course, in the Jim Crow era, there were dramatic things like that where they arrested people, and there was a guy who tried to stop the clock, hung out of the balcony to try and stop the clock before midnight to prevent the Jim Crow laws to get into effect. In 2018, a lady by the name of Nikema Williams, a representative, was also arrested in a similar manner. This is not true, these tactics, and it's important to set up the background for all of this. Basically, instead of signing this bill publicly, as the governor usually would do, they convened with 6 white males under closed doors to do so in secrecy. And therefore, this is why this progressive representative, she's a firebrand progressive representative, 20 years old, by the name of Park Cannon, she wanted to shed the spotlight on this. And she was at another protest in the airport, siding with union people at the time when she found out about this bill, and she rushed, took an Uber, I think, or something, and drove half an hour back into town to expose this as best she could, and she's done that. I think that probably they didn't calculate it that way, but her profile has now been raised nationally, and I think that will help her if she attempts to make changes in the future.
We will see, what change is concerned. I'm a little bit skeptic. But interesting is to see, if you can show slide 13, please, what's going to happen with her. And there's an interesting quote. Let's read before. Cannon faces 2 felony charges: felony obstruction and preventing or disrupting General Assembly session. According to an arrest affidavit, is it correctly pronounced? Affidavit? Seen by CNN, the affidavit states that Cannon was charged with disrupting General Assembly sessions because she, quote, knowingly and intentionally did by knocking the governor's door during session of singing a bill.
Sorry,
now, this is singing. There is a quote. They wrote singing, and well,
that's right. Yeah.
It also, who are those guys? Who are the guys who are sitting there? What kind of people are this? They are breaking the law, in my opinion. By keeping people away from voting, and they are not capable, to put out a correct written charge, right? What people are there? what people are elected in Georgia, right?
Yeah, no, it's very concerning. I hope that the local population punishes them for this kind of blatant behavior in the next elections. But this is very disturbing. One thing that I don't know how I skipped it, but one thing that I skipped in my overview of the things that were changing is that uh, the election board members can now be changed, removed from office, and others appointed, the superintendent appointed instead of them before the elections or during the elections, which is very concerning. Specifically, knowing something that has happened in the congressional district in Luzerne County in Pennsylvania in the last elections. Guy, the chair of the election board, Steve Urban, a Republican, basically replaced people on the board as a question was arising in order to overrule their decision regarding the constitutionality of counting some votes. As a result, they overruled the results of the votes. Subsequently, this has become an issue. They've ousted him, but it's more difficult to change the results of what he has done. And so this is kind of bullshit stuff that we should expect in Georgia, where blatantly they're doing anti-democratic things in order to force results, whether it's justified or not, for political gains. And that's something to very much look at. It's in the bill. It's already set out to be. They can replace up to 4 individuals with superintendents, which will do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And they have the
Well,
power. Yeah.
yeah. The cream on the cake is, if you think about it, they are doing this, and of course they are trying to keep the Democrats, in the future out of Georgia, right? But but even if you wanna have the Democrats in Georgia, at least they don't help you. And in the end, it fucking doesn't matter, right? But it cannot stand, of course, right? And
Yeah.
well, it's very depressing for the people in Georgia, and we will see. Do you think there are chances that other states are going the same way? Like we know the deep red states like Missouri and maybe Texas. Maybe Texas is already too progressive in quotation marks. But what do you think, Amos? Is there an option for others to do the same way?
uh, it's hard to see someone as corrupt as this governor. He's done stuff like that in the past, and nobody's stopping him. So he's gonna continue doing so until he's ousted out of power. It's just a sad state of affairs. And it's good that the spotlight is shined on it. I don't think they can do the same things that they did during the Jim Crow era in today's world, but it's going to be a struggle. We'll see. And this
Definitely.
comes at the time when we're actually trying to fight over a progressive bill, HR1, that is going to improve things as far as voting is concerned. And now we're still dealing with this kind of crap that is actively trying to prevent people from voting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. I think we should check what's going on with the border patrol, and we know that the situation did not change much according to reports. Children are still separated, not if they are not separated, but they are still kept in quasi jails, and they are not separated anymore from their families. which can be considered to be a progress, but it doesn't change the situation in general. And now, as we learned, Kamala Harris is now the supervisor of it all, and she has come to aid and end all this, or whatever her plan is. What, Amos, give us more information on it.
I don't know much about Kamala's involvement in that, but I don't know that they're sufficiently equipped to deal with it, or that they want to. Biden has so far just exclaimed that they need to return the asylum seekers to Mexico, and that he asked them to wait to a better time that to deal with asylum requests. But that's kind of insane when you know the pressures and the situation along the border. So I don't know. Wait for what? Meanwhile, a law that's been the brainchild of Stephen Miller. You remember Stephen Miller? Or
Oh yes, who can forget Gargamel?
he introduced this Title 42. Title 42 is a way for the Border Patrol to turn asylum seekers right on their spot without any due process or legal action, and turn them back into Mexico for in about 2 hours. And as far as we know, they've found that this is still in effect. They're still using that title, and in the last month, they returned 88% of all Border Patrol asylum seekers, all border asylum seekers under this title. So this is still going on. We should all know that's the fact. What is more disturbing is that after the Border Patrol has been taken to court regarding the inhumane conditions that the detainees were exposed to, the immigrants were exposed to, including cold weather, exposure to COVID, and so forth, they have now progressed into just dumping them in little communities, little towns in the desert, in the middle of the desert, little communities that like have maybe population of 2,000, 3,000, and are surrounded by dozens of miles till the next town, in an area, particularly in an area called Ajo, which has in the last year seen a record number of human remains due to the passage. There's an article about it in the Intercept. I recommend everybody to read. We'll post the thing in the chat, in the comments later. And they basically it's very disturbing. Here's what it says in the start. The rural Arizona border community of Gila Bend declared a state of emergency this week following a significant change in the U.S. Border Patrol operation that has the agency dropping migrant families off in tiny desert towns with scarce resources to receive them. It's 30 miles to the next type of town, and that's 30 miles of open desert, Mayor Chris Riggs said on Tuesday. Come July and August, we're going to be finding bodies. That's their expectation. To their credit of this local Ajo community, or local, there's like something similar to a town hall or whatever, like combination of towns have this governmental agency that came up with a way to deliver people that are dumped in these desert locations, and transfer them to Tucson and to some welcome center that has been helping with individuals, with migrants. these are so far that have been families, no, not children or separate individual women, but families. Um, and this now we know 88% are sent back by Title 42. The ones that are not, that cannot be sent back, that the court has rejected from being able to send back, these are the people that they're dumping in these communities. So those are people who have some sort of a, I believe, have some sort of a claim on moving across the border, or have been found to have COVID, that it's known that they have COVID or whatever, and they cannot return them to Mexico in these situations. They just dump them in these towns, which is just, to me, completely inhumane. This I don't know how much the administration is involved in it. It's hard to know how much of it is because of people who are in the border patrol, who are leftovers from the Trump era. It's or how much there's involvement from the federal government. But this is a very disturbing thing that has to have a light shown on it. People may die as a result of it. But these little communities they're doing what they can to transfer these people from the moment they're dropped to another location that will receive them, but they cannot sustain it for very long. They're doing it on their own dime, and the border patrol is just like washing their hands off it. Maybe even as a kind of a punishment to like, because we're not allowed to hold them in subhumane conditions. So there, take them, do what you want. So it's unbelievable. It deserves to have circulation. People need to know about this.
We have, as you mentioned it, we have a kind of same situation here in Europe, when it comes to the people who are at sea, on sea, who are flying over the sea to come over to Europe. And we have our frontiers guarded by a company which is installed by the European Union, which is called Frontex, and they are massively criticized since they are active, that they are doing illegal stuff, like when they are finding people on sea. They are trying to put them into the official waters of maybe Turkey or other countries, to get rid of the responsibility, to put them at safe land, to rescue them. And it is they were not confirmed, when they had to answer questions from different governments here who were criticizing them. They refused to confirm they did anything wrong. But the evidence is clear. We got so many evidence already, also coming from different countries who witness what they are doing. And it is the same motivation. We are closing our eyes and don't see the bigger picture, because the question is why those people are fleeing. This is one reason, is wars, and you can ask yourself who conflicted the wars. And the second one is, of course, the climate change, which is hitting more and more. And these are two main reasons people are giving up their homes and fleeing from it. And of course, we are closing, not of course, but our eyes are still closed, as a general society, and well, those people are put either on the sea, to let others care about them, and or, as you say, in desert-like surroundings, and it's crazy, and it has nothing to do with humanity.
Yep.
Yeah. Then talking about the climate crisis, there's our next topic, and there was an article here in Huffington Post, and I also was wondering what is going on. Here in Germany, in Europe, we had a big masses behind the Friday for the Friday movement. How was it called again? Friday for Freedom. I don't remember it. It was the the climate change movement, which was every Friday on the streets. Future for Fridays. That was the slogan. Fridays for Future. Sorry, now I got it correct. Fridays for Future, and of course, when the coronavirus appeared, they disappeared, because everyone is at home, and of course the focus changed over the past year. Everything is concentrating on everyone is concentrating on the COVID virus, but what's going on with the climate change, which of course didn't stop, and we know that we got data, from the first time when nearly everyone was locking down their countries, that there was a temporary recovery to register, but of course it is nothing which would change anything about climate change in general. It is going on, and if you look at the data, it is rushing, and it is going faster and faster, and the governments and of course the big corporations are still focusing on fantasy dates like to have everything under control by 2050, which we know is absolutely ridiculous. It won't take even until 2030 until we slowly have to grow giants to survive. It is absolutely crazy. And there's the article from the Huffington Post, who put a light on what are the big banks are investing, why we are not looking what they are doing, why we are looking at Corona. And there the article says the world's largest banks have funneled $3.8 trillion into the fossil fuel industry over the last 5 years, according to new figures published on Wednesday. Banks provided more financing to oil, gas, and coal companies in 2020 than did in 2016, the year countries signed the Paris Climate Agreement and committed to rapidly reduce emissions to keep global temperatures rise below 2 degrees Celsius, which cannot be reached anymore, which also say the latest data. We cannot do this anymore. 2 degrees is an illusion. Financing was 9% lower overall in 2020 than in 2019 because the pandemic cut demand for fossil fuels. But the first half of 2020 saw the highest level of fossil fuel financing in any half year since the Paris Agreement. There you see the mindset, they were thinking, the first half year, everything is closed, but now they're seeing they are developing vaccines, etc. Now we can slowly get into the game again. And look, nobody is looking at us. Now we can do this. We can put money into it, and all the companies who have a policy for pretends to be for the Paris Agreement and the targets we have to reach, secretly are fueling it literally. And if you look, Ben Cushing, he's a financial advocacy campaign manager at the Sierra Club. He says this picture is alarming. Major banks around the world, led by US banks in particular, are fueling climate chaos by dumping trillions of dollars into the fossil fuels that are causing the crisis. And well, if you look at the further data, JP Morgan provided 51.3 billion, of fossil fuel financing in 2020. It was 20% less than 2019, but enough to keep the number one's position. And this is not really, this is only lip service. This is, they know they still can profit from those businesses and they will put the money into the businesses. It won't change. And the Citigroup, the second largest financer, provided 237.5 from 2016 to 2020. JP Morgan declined to comment it, and Citigroup not even to respond to this inquiry. It is absolutely fantastic, and well, we will see where it leads. I don't think that we have to be wizards to know where it leads. It's capitalism. Capitalism rules the world. We see it everywhere. We see it even when it comes to the little things, to voting rights. You can also break it down, to capitalism. Those people don't want to get hurt. And they don't give a fuck. They have their islands somewhere, they have their fortresses, maybe they have their private armies. Once the water is rising so high, or the people are revolting and the streets and everything is breaking down, those guys are safe. And that's the game they are playing. And well, what can we do? Looking at those ridiculous numbers, those numbers should, if you want to keep a kind of capitalistic system, you cannot put all the money into these things. Otherwise you have a plan. You have a certain plan to do this on purpose. And I don't know, Amos, what is your take from this? I think it is horrific to see those numbers.
Yeah, it absolutely is horrific, and but the joke may still yet be on them, because if the administration and other countries invest as much as they are supposed to in new renewable energies, these energies are ultimately cheaper and more efficient and easier to deploy in a lot of cases, if the technology is found, and that will cost them a nice penny at the end if they invest in the wrong technology. There's a lot of people who are investing in green technologies as well, because they can see where it's going. They can see the potential in it, because it's free energy. If you reduce the cost of the infrastructure, basically you get free energy, which you can't beat with having to pull something out of the ground. So these guys may be digging their own grave. Unfortunately, they're also digging our grave, but that's the situation.
Well, I don't know if they're digging their grave. I don't know. I don't know what the master plan behind is, what they're thinking. And I don't tend to be a conspiracy a guy. But if you count it all, it has not anything to do with a strategy, to keep people alive.
Mhm.
Maybe only a few,
Right.
and we know who those few are.
Of course.
Right? And yeah, the policies and commitments that banks have put out so far give us no reason to believe they are going to make these deep emission cuts that the science demands, said Disterhoff. Who's Disterhoff? I forgot it, but he must be someone official. The world might cut emissions in half by 2030 to keep within the 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming. At the beginning, we were talking about 2 degrees. And, he's already correcting it down to 1.5 degrees by 2030. And, well, and we are learning more and more about the what's going on in the Arctic. We learn about the Gulf Stream. We know about all the changes. And, well, and they are investing in everything which is bringing us down as a human race, or a good part of the population. Well, you gotta be pretty cynical to I think to support those politics, right?
Yeah, but 1.5 degrees is less warming than.
Yeah,
2
but at the
degrees.
beginning of the article, they were talking about 2 degrees.
But 2 degrees is
that-
a more lax number than 1.5.
Yeah, of course. I meant it in this way, of course. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, any comments here in chat? Juliet Nichols says, why can banks fund efforts that keep humanity alive and unthreatening? Mark Burns says, only debt forces banks to spend on dark money. Yeah.
We've battled, it reminds me, we've battled locally, this group, environmental activists that I was part of, battled these investment in local gas facilities, natural gas facilities for power stations and so forth that would power New York and so forth. And that was difficult to even do. But what happens with these things is that it seems like it's innocuous. They're gonna just invest in a, I don't know what processing plant it is, as a phase out. But this is something that they build for the next 10-20 years. So this will continue to have impact in that time scope. And you have to remember that it's not something that
20
is just
years, 20
yeah,
years, and we are already at 2040.
exactly.
The problem is when we are saying this for years, the window gets closer and closer. It gets narrower and narrower, and it's closing faster and faster. And all efforts are only a little drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
What we can seeing until today, because everyone is trying, to get something out of it,
And this is
and we
coming.
saw and
Yeah.
we saw this during COVID, especially here in Germany. Everyone is trying to get something out of it, even if it is the worst crisis. We in Germany, in the Conservative Party, we have now several figures who enriched themselves by selling the masks, and
Yeah.
it's absolutely ridiculous.
And this is coming at a time where the science is showing worse and worse news. Like there's been this study where they found that the ocean currents are slowing down, and ocean currents are the major driver for carbon sequestration. So basically, if there's no flows in the ocean, even less carbon will be sequestered. It's going to speed up global warming. And that's what we talk about, the runaway global warming, because at some point there's a whole range of self-developing activities that are kind of like spiraling off and just increase and accelerate the process and making it even less possible to stop. So it's not just our actions; it's our actions triggering natural events that are going to accelerate things.
Yeah, we will see what the future brings. Yeah, let's go over to the shortcuts, and it was hilarious. I don't want to comment it, just roll it. I think everyone will get its laugh.
Senator Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing we will agree on is that you believe this. You have been the most consistent voice, I think, in the country over a long period of time on issues like this. We do have disagreement, but I like working with people who believe what they believe.
I mean, with all the millions and millions and millions and millions of universes, why the fuck do I have to be in this one where those idiots, those worms, spineless worms, are praising Bernie Sanders for being consistent, and he loves to work together with people who are consistent. Of course, he doesn't know this. It must be completely strange for him, that this exists. It is absolutely, and it is so cynical, and it is cynical. It is, yeah,
Cynical,
Lindsey
yes.
Graham.
And Lindsey Graham is just the character to talk about standing for what you believe.
Yeah, the political contortionist, and he is praising Bernie Sanders for having a backbone. It's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I love the picture, by the way.
Yeah. I was so hoping, that he was, hitting Graham on the head, on a stupid fucking head. Sorry for the F word, by the way. Not sorry, of course. Well, what's going on with the bald eagles? What did they find out?
Okay, well, so this is something that happened 25 years ago, 1996. All of a sudden, birds and like bald eagles, that is the symbol of the United States, started like crashing into walls, wobbling, falling off cliffs, all kinds of things. Uh, they did not know what the heck was going on. At the time, there was a uh, researcher, let's see, by the name of Carol, um, what's her name? Carol Metier. She was a pathologist of the National Wildlife Center. She could not find the results. She said that they excluded all kinds of different things that they knew could be possible, except for secondhand cigarette smoke at that time. Uh, so that was the situation. They continued researching a woman by the name of Susan Wild, was aquatic scientist at the University of Georgia. She continued, and in 2001 they had a name for it. They knew exactly like what happened to the birds pathologically. They called it the avian vacuolar melinopathy, or AVM for short, and it has to do with deterioration of the melanin uh, uh, coatings in the brain, something like that, causing brain damage to these birds. And they noticed that before the eagles, there were birds by the name of coots. Coots were swimming around upside down, struggling to breathe and get their heads from underwater, which was very disturbing. And so they became easy prey for the bald eagles, and that's how the bald eagles got it. So they were trying to figure out what was really the source. They found a plant by the name of Hydrilla verticillata, which was common to all these bodies of water where the birds were affected. They looked further into it. The bird that fed other birds with it, that hasn't affected the other birds eating this plant, and then they realized that would have to do with cyanobacteria that was on the plants. They identified that cyanobacteria. They sent it to a researcher by the name of Timo Niedermeyer in the Martin Luther University in Württemberg, Germany, and he isolated this very difficult to grow this particular cyanobacteria. Eventually, he managed to produce an ounce. They flew it back to the U.S. They tried it on chicken, tried it on birds. Nothing happened. And then, after much more research, just recently they discovered that there was a difference in the cyanobacteria that was coming from these plants in these locations and the ones grown in the lab, and the difference was 5 atoms of bromine in the molecule composition that the toxin was built from. So that further investigation, they discovered the supposition that the presence of bromide in these places was probably either due to coal mining activities, or ironically due to herbicides that were used to exterminate that invasive plant that we mentioned, and thus giving this cyanobacteria, that special configuration that was causing these birds to die off, that also probably affect fish. And finally, they resolved finally they resolved the mystery after 25 years. Now, why am I talking about it? Why is this important, other than a curious scientific tale? And the issue here is that we don't know how things turn out, and we change things in our environment, and this weird accidental combination between these chemicals that are in the presence, some invasive species, and this just one in a weird combination, one in a lifetime situation where you have this juxtaposition causes this mass die off, and to predict that, let alone to stop it, is going to become increasingly difficult. And we saw 25 years. It took them 25 years to even decipher what has happened. Since luckily, the bald eagles have stopped dying from this due to various things. They've in changing in how things were dealt with in the environment, but that might have not been the case, and we might have lost the species that represents the United States symbolically. That shows you where we are. It's very disturbing, and that's the lesson that we have to take from this.
Yeah, don't worry. It is worldwide. It is not only America.
Oh yeah, of course.
But I think, was there something in Australia also where they put certain animals? Wasn't it frogs or something, which they imported to Australia, and they did not find a natural predator, a natural opponent, if you want so, and they yeah, they covered a lot of parts, of the areas where they were put in, and it was absolutely crazy. And and if you know this, if you only put in animals which don't belong in a certain environment, and you see what comes from this, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, that if you change things on a smaller basis, maybe on a molecular basis also, that also this would cause changes which we cannot oversee in the consequences,
Yeah, it's time and time again we see that changes that we make in the environment has unprecedented, unexpected consequences, like the Dust Bowl era, where there was effects from dams that they built, and so on, and that's just a fact. We're changing the environment very rapidly, not giving nature enough time to adjust it, and we're seeing the results of it. We're seeing how we're into a new mass extinction era, and I don't think it's avoidable at this point. We're smacking in it, and it's gonna continue to happen, unfortunately. And we need to stop these people who are forcing those changes irresponsibly, or allowing for them.
Yeah, nature is no stockholder, so they're lost. Yeah, interesting story about what happened to the eagles. Yeah, and there's another hilarious thingy coming this week, coming from Dave Clark. Dave Clark, who is the CEO of Amazon, and I read an article in which he referred to his beginnings at Amazon, and he said that he was a guy who was hiding in the shadow, and to check out who from the employees are slackers or coming too late to work, to get a reason to fire them. This was as supposed to be one of his introduction speeches he gave. And well, he came up with a tweet: "I welcome Senator Sanders to Birmingham and appreciate his push for a progressive workplace. I often say we are the Bernie Sanders of employers, but that's not quite right, because we actually deliver a progressive workplace."
Right.
I don't know if you can get any more cynical, and
of course, the context of it is the current unionizing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the contract is yeah, of course. Well, and the point is, the striking. If they are so on the Bernie train, right? What a progressive workplaces concern, and the $15 and healthcare, etc. So what's the problem with unions? right? If you're so progressive and such a great employer, what's your problem with unions, right? And if you look, and well, and this, we are living in a very cynical world, where everyone is trying to paint itself in a color which is wanted by certain people. Democrats are more and more trying to paint themselves to be progressives, and they're undermining what was once a movement. And and also Dave Clark, Amazon, comes up and presents Amazon, as a progressive employer and caring employer. And if we are looking at the reports, we are looking that they're closing out the drivers, the Amazon drivers. They don't fall under the $15 minimum wage rule, right? And if you know how they are pushed, that they don't get any breaks, to go to a restroom, etc. And they wow, how can you come up with this bullshit? Who do you think you can fool with it?
And talking about, we mentioned earlier about the plan of the wealthy, the wealthy demographic to escape or change once things just completely start falling apart. I believe it was Bezos that came up with this thing where he was talking about how we should colonize space, and we're at the point where we could start doing so and move to Mars and do all that stuff. And obviously, like, he was presenting it as a solution for the environmental degradation of the planet. But obviously, it is for the select few that will be able to afford it and pick, and the rest of us will stay here, because you cannot transport the entire humanity to another planet for sure. Logistically impossible. So that's where their head is at. And when you're talking about their investment into such things as the private rocket industry and so forth, that's where they're aiming at. That's what they're thinking about when they do so. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do space exploration and improve space technology and stuff like that, but it's very important to keep in mind what these fellows have in their brains to like leave us in the dumps and use
Yeah,
that as an escape hatch.
yeah. And a funny side note is that Elon Musk is now learning that the German unions are pretty powerful, and he has big problems. He is planning to build up a facility here in Germany, and it is not so easy as he found out, and we will see if it finally will come to this facility. It is there's a lot of it is about everything with Elon Musk. Everything is unsecure and a little bit yeah. There's nothing. There's only in my for my taste there is too less solidity to his projects. Do you know what I mean? There's too much. It will happen in the future, and wow. Anyway, I think this tweet from Dave Clark is absolutely ridiculous. And if you go to Twitter and want to check it, you see that he got the fitting answers to this bullshit. And but that he has the chutzpah to come up with this.
That should have been in our satire section.
Yeah, it is satire, and yeah, and there we are. Yeah, we were talking. Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning. This is the second pandemic, and this is an America only virus. You got this virus exclusively.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. Hi, welcome to Biden train repair. Lacks the ratings of Trump train wreck. Yes, I watched the first address of Biden he gave a couple of days ago, and well, I mean, it was not Trump, right? But it was a hard difference. It was a hard difference, right? I don't know how you watched it, Amos, but I can see that the ratings for the mainstream media, at least on TV, dropped by nearly half. Because Joe Biden is absolutely no action star, right?
I have to admit, mea culpa, I'm part of that drop. I have not watched it.
Okay, I did, and yeah, in parts, it was a little bit like Grandpa Simpson, where he was distracted and a little bit lost in his narration there. Anyway, yeah, proof America's getting back to normal. Airplanes travels up, movie theater attendance is up, 2 mass shootings in 2 weeks. Yeah, damn. Your turn.
I have to play American roulette.
Your turn.
Will it be your turn next? Wheel of mass shooting.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
the half
This is
staff.
great. This is great. Yeah. And who is marching in front of this bullshitters parade? It's Darth Turtle, Mitch
Yeah.
McConnell. Yeah. 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 Another fun fact. Yeah. You got far more weapons than people are living in the US. Nothing new, but yeah. We outnumber people in the US. Really? 328 million people, 393 million guns. Crazy. But there's one gun that's the most coldly efficient of us all. Which one? The one that kills gun control laws. They're already dead on arrival. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And there you can feel the heartfelt pain of the NRA. By the way, what happened to the NRA? Did they really move from New York to Texas right now?
I know they're still in existence, unfortunately. I was hoping that they would completely fall apart because of their financial.
Yeah, but
condition.
but before this, they should stay in New York, because I think in New York they are owing the taxes, right?
They do, but the problem is that the local, I mean, organization wise, they're very decentralized, which kind of gives them an advantage, which is unfortunate. Smart on their part, but that's making it more difficult for them to go away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and this is also we didn't discuss it yet, but I think it's also a big topic in America, right? Biden has committed 86.9 million to put border migrants in hotels, and well, what is the situation? To be honest, I did not hear a lot, in the past couple of months. What about the homeless veterans concerns? How are they doing? Are they taken care of?
Yeah, obviously we have gaps, but that's it. It's an important. I mean, that's something that I've been saying for a while. Why don't you, instead of doing these horrific concentration camps, essentially, and detention centers, why don't they just pay those businesses that are out of business because of the COVID? And it would help both. It would help the businesses to improve and keep people in relatively separated conditions and individual rooms, and provide much more humane conditions. So yeah, I think $87 million is probably too little for that, but it at least is in the right direction.
How many trillion went to the corporate? Let's forget it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, if you dare cross this bridge, you will experience a scorched earth that you can't even begin to imagine. Officer Mitch McConnell. Yeah. And this is about the filibuster reform. Yeah. And we oppose any form of gun control, but we are open to compromise on keeping flags permanently at half-mast. We'll see if Chuck Schumer agrees to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. A crazy week, as I said at the beginning.
And we didn't even touch on Cuomo.
Oh, oh God.
Did you want to just touch on what transpired in Israel real quick in a couple of minutes?
I was asking you, what the situation is in the
Yeah.
green room. Okay,
So
I asked Amos what because in Germany everything is failing. What the vaccination concerns, we are so far behind. It is absolutely crazy. But I read in the news that in Israel the situation is completely the opposite. That the restaurants are open, cafes are open, and it is more and more coming back into a normal life. And at the beginning of the pandemic, when it came into discussion, about vaccinating the people in Israel, I knew that there was a really, really strong block of the Orthodox Jews, who were opposed to getting vaccinated, and I was asking myself, damn, what are the news from Israel, and what about the ultra Orthodox bloc? Did they finally get vaccinated, and how did they agree to this? And maybe you
well,
got
they
an,
didn't.
you got an answer.
They're still kind of like a sore thumb in that process. But there's been enough vaccination. Of course, Israel has agreed to be a testing ground for the Pfizer vaccine, which is why they got a lot of Pfizer vaccines to begin with early, and by now they've almost vaccinated the entire population, and the things are open and they're kind of returning to normal in Israel. And that's the first example to the world that seems to be possible. So far, so good. So the vaccine has, on the whole, been a good success. That is part of the reason why Bibi Netanyahu, who ran for yet another election, we just had new elections in Israel, he won, but he won in such a combination that it is not enough for his party to rule at the current time. So they're still, again, it's the fourth election in the last 2 years. They cannot get to that combination. There's always a split. One thing to note, though, is that the fascist extremist party that has been so far kind of outlawed has made it significant numbers into the Knesset, seven seats, more so than the what used to be the biggest Labor Party. That is tying with them pretty much, and that is a very disturbing movement. On the whole, though, the blocks of left and right and religious and secular have not changed much, and it's tying things up. We're in a really dire situation in Israel.
I read that it was already a big problem for Netanyahu to get a government assembled in the last election. But now I learned that it is even more difficult for him to find enough parties, and there must be a lot of small parties. He has to put his power on, and it is questionable if he can make it. It would maybe come to a sixth election or to a fifth.
No, they can't fix elections by law, but see, the thing is, Netanyahu is one of the most sly and cunning politicians around. You have to give it to him. He's very astute politically. He figures out a way out of in a Houdini manner out of any situation.
He has a good network. He's connected with everyone in the world, and this is what I read, is that the Israeli people, in this situation, consider to be more valuable than trying a change and doing something different. Because they depend
perhaps,
on his network, on his
like I said, especially with the COVID thing, it had made a change. People know that he's corrupt, but in spite of that, his block has been voted in. But either way, he's very, very astute. And he's appealed to the Arab parties, which is an Islamist party. Actually, it's funny because they're an Islamist party that said, we don't care, we want to be in the government regardless if Netanyahu or not Netanyahu, and we'll accept Netanyahu as the leader of the bloc. They have run on that and they've increased their power. It's very ironic. The whole thing is very strange. And as a result, if he's to build up a coalition, he has to rely on this extremist racist party on the right, together with this Islamist party on the other side. And to imagine something, an animal like that with hydra, multiple heads, is just mind-boggling. So that is the situation right now in Israel.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah, we will see where it goes. Well, guys, we are already at the end, and I searched the whole morning to get an outro clip. Something we can play with on this channel. And well, I did not find anything. I don't. No. I found some pieces, but copyright stuff, and so we have nothing for today. We only have our best wishes for you to stay safe. To keep your mind sane. In those times, in those crazy times, and yeah, enjoy the weekend.
Something?
I'm sorry.
Can we hum something?
Hum? No, I'm not a good hummer. No.
You sure?
Maybe we can hum Mozart's Requiem.
I don't know it that well to be able to do it out of.
This would be fitting, at least. Well, guys, have a good weekend, and enjoy yourself. And as I said, be safe. And hope to see you guys next week. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. Bye bye.